We're continuing to celebrate 25 years of the Lewis Clark Interpretive Center. Coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts, in part 2 of our 2-part series, we're talking with the current Interpretive Center director about stories from the core of discovery, what the center means for this community, and we look ahead to the Lewis Clark Festival.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth,
And we're No Damn Experts. It is spring in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
The day we are recording is 4/20, 2023.
What time is it?
And time is 2:06 in the afternoon.
Not 4:20.
Temp is like 20 degrees and there's snow on the ground. But that's not going to stop us from talking about fun things and about our unique assets. The weather don't get us down because we live in Montana.
That's right.
In our studio today is a guest you all know and love. We have heard stories about John Coulter from him. We have heard stories about Lewis and Clark feeding twigs to Sacagawea. We have heard some really good things. And I welcome back to the studio Duane Buchi with the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center here in Great Falls, Montana. Welcome back, man.
Thanks, Rebecca and Shannon. It's good to be back with both of you.
He's always a smiling face. If you go to the Interpretive Center, you always have a smiling, happy, knowledgeable face to greet you.
You know,
Hard not to be happy when you're in a place like that, quite honestly.
such a different reaction than when you show up at our office. Just FYI. Like you walk in, we'll be kind to you until you start asking questions that we just can't answer.
Move along.
I had the same 5-minute conversation 25 times yesterday with the same people about what the weather is going to do. And if you can recall, we used to have 2 meteorologists on staff.
Oh, that's right.
We have a meteorologist enthusiast on staff now.
But the weather years ago,
Yeah.
but I'm not a meteorologist. I'm married to one. So I feel closer. I'm meteorologist adjacent compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That's at least intent.
Well, and a lot further along the path than we are, where I just kept looking at these people and I wanted to try and be helpful, but they're like, what's the weather going to do at 4:00 today? What is the weather going to be like in Helena tomorrow at 2? I really
love to be able to help you more.
I'm going to tell you what KRTV's website says, but I'm going to tell you trust 20% of what it says. I don't know what's going to happen.
The meteorologists all get a paycheck whether they're right or wrong.
I'm
just going to bite my tongue.
I know. Like, we're going to do our best guess, but no one can predict the future.
That is so true. And how boring would that be if
No.
everything was like laid out that you knew?
I'd rather
every
have
next
a little
event.
surprise.
Although I would like to have like that skill where if I predict something that's going to happen tomorrow, I've got the power that it just happens.
Just at the right time. though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's scary.
And people will be like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I know. It's creepy, huh? But never tell anyone I have that superpower.
So kind of like being psychic, but you can make it happen instead.
Yeah. Like
So
Bruce Almighty.
God.
Right. I wasn't going to say it, but. So
Now that we got that out of
we have talked numerous times about the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center. And for you folks who haven't remembered, North America's most extensive collection of the entire core of discovery expedition right here in Great Falls. Lewis and Clark traipsed all along some areas of the Missouri River. Spent the most time in any one location outside of winter camp here in Great Falls. And we have the center that is unique. It is beautiful. It is amazing. And it is 25 years old this year.
25 years.
And technically, so we heard from Jane Weber last week on last week's episode.
Okay.
And today, Duane, when this episode releases, will be the official day of the 25th anniversary.
Happy birthday!
How many of the 25 years have you been with the Interpretive Center for?
I've been with them just went over 8 years.
Okay.
So just a fraction of that time, about 30% of it roughly.
So tell us what drew you to the Interpretive Center? Because you had an illustrious military career before you left that world and moved into learning how to fire certain guns and learning bush medicine and flaming poop.
Some of that's in the military too, isn't it?
I have no idea. I don't know what he did. All transferable skills.
Yes, exactly.
I'll say first I was attracted back home. Montana's always been home. I was born and raised over outside of Helena.
Okay.
And then, spent a good portion of my life, 25 years wandering the globe in different locations with the United States Air Force. And there was no doubt in my mind at about year 2021, after that I'd been in the Air Force, that when I'm done, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And I did just that, and I will not leave again.
You learned your lesson.
Yes. It was, I
was
have
fun.
It was. I have no regrets, but it's been fun to turn this page, come back, reacquaint myself with a lot of old friends, with family, with some new things as well. Things do change, whether you're here or not. And I'm elated, when I was a kid, Great Falls never had a huge attraction on me, and now there's no other place that I would live.
Yeah, you
love
heard it here.
being in Great Falls. One thing that really sealed that deal for me is that before I got out and came back here, I was in South Carolina. Nothing against South Carolina. They have a lot of beautiful trees, but there are so many trees that you don't ever get to see the sky.
Oh, yeah.
You can't look
It's
through
not
the
a problem
timber.
here. Yeah.
The visibility is very close. So I didn't realize it until I spent a couple of years down there, and then I came back here to visit friends and family, and I'm like, it is so
there's
good
the sky.
to look and see the sky, the mountains, the landscape, and so.
I did the same thing when I left home and went to college. I grew up on a ranch, and when I went to college, it was in town, and so I was all looking forward to living in the big city. And then my first trip home, I got out of the pickup and stepped out, and I just smelled cow crap, and I'm like,
Bliss.
oh, that's just the best smell in the world. Like one you wouldn't notice on a daily basis where you lived, but then it was definitely there because you'd been away for so long, and you just never appreciate that smell as much as when you've been gone.
Yeah,
Cow
that is
poop
so
smell.
true.
Yeah. So if you ever want to make me a candle,
There's probably one that exists that's a manure of
There
some
is.
kind.
I've seen them.
Dwayne has them in his house all over the place.
he's making them himself.
Yeah.
Lewis himself, he made comment that, cooking over a bison dung fire imparted somewhat of a spicy flavor to the meat.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
that had to have smelled good too, right?
Well, you would think it's all natural.
That's right.
All natural does not mean good.
Now, I do have to share, we had Elizabeth and
Kelly
from the Interpretive Center Foundation on, and we talked extensively about custom scented Lewis and Clark candles.
Yes.
And don't be surprised if that ends up in the Portage
And the
Cash
names
store.
that could go along with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would not be surprised at all.
No,
I
it's
think
going to
they
be
would
awesome.
sell. I really
One of
do.
them is going to be Lewis's foot.
That was Kelly, wasn't it?
How did you know?
Well, neither confirm nor deny. There was some pretty good brainstorming happening here.
Yeah.
Sure there was. Like only they can do.
Yeah. Very creative people. So, Dwayne, what's your job
So
now with the interpreter?
What do
You're
you
not the
actually
only one
do
that asked me
there?
that.
He asks himself every night. He goes home. He's like, honey, what is my
what
job?
am I doing?
So I have the privilege of being the director at the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center. So that'll be a year in May that I've been in that position. Prior to that, I was the education coordinator, so all the school groups and outreach to schools and that kind of thing was kind of underneath of my purview. But today that's what I find myself doing, and I count myself fortunate to walk through those doors and get to share that story with people that come to see us.
And clearly this is not a podcast to recruit employment, but do you have openings?
We have openings.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Make no mistake. I'll say that again. We have openings. And we're always looking to hire the right volunteer.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
We have 43 on our rolls right now.
That's great.
Oh, wow.
A typical volunteer spends 1 day a week, 4-hour shift. They might be helping in the exhibit hall as a docent. They might be at the information desk, guiding patrons that come in or giving them more information about our town. Maybe they're helping with school groups or our special events. Might be working in our gift shop or doing some administrative kind of things in our back admin office. But we have opportunity to come and join our happy clan. In fact, this would be a good time to do so because once a year we have a big training pep rally getting ready for our peak season events, and it would be on the 15th of May is when we have that planned. So
oh, wow.
people would have a chance to meet all the volunteers, almost all of them together, because usually we get just about the whole crew there. So,
and you've got some with a lot of longevity there.
Yeah.
We have, there are 6 volunteers still actively serving with us. In fact, I just walked away from one to come over here today. He was taking care of some things that have been there since we have opened.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah. And
we have one just a year ago that we awarded, so he just hit 10,000 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Of volunteer service.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And really just take a moment to think in any venture you're a part of, someone who just willingly gives of their time for 25 years to such a worthy cause. Oh, that's epic.
Humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these volunteers are all pretty passionate about this place. I mean, they wouldn't be there as long as they have been if they didn't have some passion for the story. What do those volunteers add to the experience of people coming to the Interpretive Center?
Well, the word you said there, passion, so absolutely. And so in every word that comes out of their mouth, anybody that they're talking with, they feel that, right? They sense the excitement. They see it in their eyes. They see it in their face. They hear it in their voice. Yeah. And that just tends to be a little contagious. And so the others are getting excited about it too and about their trip there. And, if I'm ever feeling like, man, this has been a rough day, I like to go look at TripAdvisor.
Which for a lot of people would be the opposite of what they would want to do is look at reviews, right?
I tell you, so I know this stat only because I looked at it this morning, but there were 888 reviews on there. All but 16 were 4 stars or above.
Wow.
And then you read through there and people like, the volunteers were so knowledgeable and so excited about what they were doing and what they were sharing. And this is the best site we've been to out of all of them that we've gone to across the trail. There's 112 sites, from the Pacific coast out to the East Coast that are all telling a portion of the story.
Right.
And, but yeah, there's a lot of very positive comments that you just have to look at it for a few minutes like, okay, I feel renewed now. Let's move on.
Yeah.
What we're doing makes a difference. Yeah.
And, quite honestly, there's some wonderful sites all across the trail. So I believe this with all my heart. The difference comes from the people that are in that. The volunteers are who they see more than anyone else. We have a small handful of staff. So they're the ones that are exuding that energy, that passion, and they're making it a connection where people walk away going, wow, that was pretty special. Yeah.
And because you were obviously excited about what you get to do every day. You talked about being grateful when you walk in the doors for work every morning. What makes you so passionate and so excited to get to do this work?
We have an opportunity to bring history alive to people, right? And to connect with them in a way. I mean, a lot of times we tend to look back on history or cultures, and sometimes that we focus on the things that are different than what we're accustomed to. And certainly we can look at the core discovery and realize that. But we can also realize that there were some passionate people there, right?
Yeah.
Some adventurous people there.
A little too adventurous, in my opinion.
Some courage, some character that was exhibited all along.
A
There
little
was
bit
some,
of tenacity.
absolutely, and you don't have to study Lewis and Clark and their leadership for very long to realize that they were amazing leaders.
Yeah.
And really such a compliment one to another. And there's absolutely no question in mind about the absolute respect that all of them had for them.
Yeah.
Just to keep doing what they were doing. I mean, it's not like, would you say rainbows and unicorns every day? I mean,
No.
Well, you get a group of people together and you're like, all right, I don't know how long this is going to take, where we're going, what we're going to encounter. You want to come?
Yeah.
You trust me? That's a lot to ask of people.
All that for $5 a month.
Yeah. Jeez.
I wouldn't have done it, Duane, and I've said that time and time again, and certainly would have not made it to Great Falls. If
Yeah.
for some reason I did, I wouldn't have gone much further because
You'd be in Great Falls still, yeah.
Well, we'd be in Great Falls. There would be no whiskey, and there's 5 falls to Portage. I'd have been like, you know what? I don't even know how many more years we have left to get to the end of this because we just keep going and never stopping. And they gave us enough whiskey to last for the entire trip, and it's gone. And I don't know how much. I would not have been a good member of the Corps of Discovery journey.
They would have kicked you out.
Yeah, I would have been the one. I would have been the one that got shot and buried somewhere along the way, and there would be no record of anything happened. Like, we don't know who
Didn't
she
know
was.
existed.
She joined the Corps Rebellion.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There you go. I'd be like, hey, sell me off to someone.
Yeah.
I just want to stay in this area.
I just want out. Yeah.
I'll do whatever it takes to get away from this.
I was just going to ask you if you remembered from past conversations if what it was they ran out of here, but obviously you did.
It's a pretty memorable moment for me. I'm not going to remember a whole bunch, but, the fun parts I'll remember. The further, the long list of reasons of why I would have never been part of the Corps of Discovery.
If you could transport in time.
And I think about it, like people making applications to go colonize Mars. I'm not doing that
You're
either.
not one of those people.
Like that's just a little too much for me.
Yeah.
It just
I'm
got a
with you
whole
there.
lot of quit in me.
I like it here.
Yeah.
Stay
I'm
in Great
just
Falls.
happy here.
Do you have a favorite or most intriguing part to you story of the journey of Lewis and Clark, or of their trip or their time? Not necessarily even in Great Falls, but just do you have a favorite part or most intriguing part to you about their journey?
I do. I kind of alluded to it just a moment ago. I guess part of this came from my upbringing in the military myself. So, I spent 29 years wearing our country's uniform. And so I've always been a little intrigued about these little nuances of leadership nuggets that I see displayed from Lewis, from Clark. We can all be a leader no matter what position we're in, right? But there's just a few things that come to mind that are really impressive to me. One of them that I'm thinking of right now. So, when they finally make it out to the Pacific coast, they get there, things are pretty miserable.
Well, they ran out of whiskey, so.
They ran out of whiskey. It is raining. They're there nearly 5 months. There's 12 days that they record that it did not rain.
Oh, geez.
And of the 12 days it did not rain, there was only 6 of those that they actually saw the sunshine.
Oh, my gosh.
I doubt it was for very long, but nonetheless,
Right.
they liken it to a
And
prison.
at this point in the journey, too, you're just
Just
Yeah.
a
Over
full
it.
Seattle experience.
right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so your food is rotting. You can't keep anything because it's always wet and moist, and so it's miserable out there. But Lewis, so they're there with a number of the Pacific Coast tribes, and he notices the hats that they're wearing. They're a woven cedar bark hat, kind of conical in shape. Some of them he describes as having it's like a little bulb on top. But anyway, and as he observes, as he was a great observer of all things, he's like, wow, they're waterproof, and it sheds all that rain not only off their head but off their shoulders, and that would be really comfortable for everyone. So he orders hats
Hey.
for the whole crew.
Yeah.
And again, I like to point back to that. Again, he's always looking out for him. Maybe not thought of as the most gregarious guy in the group, but he had Clark for that, right?
Yeah.
So the two
Those
of them
Clarks,
together
I tell you.
complemented one another. But I mean, it's just a small little thing, but in the whole sense of it, I think it speaks volumes about, hey, he cared about the little things, and he sought
Paid
to
attention to that,
absolutely
taking
put
care
them
of his
first.
people.
And I think that's why you see references to cheerful spirits so many times when they're under physical duress trying to do what they're doing. And that's just one of, but I mean, you can go through the journals and you can find those little nuggets all over the place. I find that fascinating, and I enjoy sharing that with people. We've had some companies that have come out here and they've let us share some leadership principles that they find fascinating, that they want some of their people to know. We have Vermeer Enterprises. Do you know who Vermeer is by chance?
No.
So he, the founder of that company, he's patented the round baler.
Oh.
But
I was going to say the name sounds familiar, but then I was thinking maybe I'm getting it confused with Vandelay Industries, which is a good Seinfeld reference.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I know that name too. That's why.
But now that you say Baylor, I'm like, oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
yeah, so
I think we ran one.
they sent their new middle managers. That's my term. They might have a different term for it, but I think there was
It's your story.
Yeah.
there was like 16 of them.
Oh, wow.
And they came out here. They spent 3 days in Great Falls, and we went to a different site every day, and shared with them what occurred. Like we were up at Decision Point up by Loma.
Okay.
What happened here? What was the big decision? That, you know?
Yeah.
And then we looked at some leadership principles that might still apply, and we could see where those
That's
would
so
fit in today.
unique.
We looked at the Great Falls, and we looked at the Portage, and all. And anyway, it was they
That's
had a great
neat.
time. In fact, he is already looking to just make that a regular part of what they do.
Yeah.
So, and we've had opportunity to do that with a few organizations out at Malmstrom too that have
That's
kind of
nice.
tapped into that. So yeah,
If
I
only
do
there-
enjoy that.
Yeah. If there was more time and more, if we could clone you a few times, you could turn that into a whole leadership enterprise program.
You could.
Someone sure could.
Yeah.
How many people are listening to this? Because
Thousands, millions. Millions.
yeah,
We're going to kick
I
off
can-
our
Around the
stadium
world.
tour.
we can dream
shortly.
about those things,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Where the Portage started officially is on private land today, so it's not accessible to the average Joe. Have you been on that spot?
I have had opportunity to go down there and be on that private ground where they had their camp and everything. And, I would say that even though that is on private land, there is a public spot that you can park and hike to where you can look right across the Missouri River
Yep.
and you can see right where they were. And that's available. Again, you have to go down to the trailhead at Maroney Dam.
Yep.
So from
Sulphur Springs Loop.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So
It's clearly marked. It's a beautiful
it is
walk.
just
a
under
mosey.
4 miles round trip.
Yeah.
If somebody is thinking, hey, that sounds fun, I'd like to do that, I would encourage you to make plans to do it. It's so to drive there and back, you're talking about an hour round trip, and then to do the hike, it's 4 miles. Not a lot of elevation gain or loss, but if you're coming in the summertime, there's one tree.
Yeah,
where you
it-
can seek some shade. The rest of the time you're exposed, so
toasty.
it's best to look at the weather. If it's going to be warm, try and go in the morning or late in the
It's a
evening.
great late spring or early fall hike as well.
Yeah, it is.
But there's going to be an opportunity for a guided hike on that.
There is. Not only to there,
Look at
but
that segue.
to the Lewis and Clark Pass as well. So, yes.
So before we jump into that, my other kind of question along this leadership line, and it's military, so you're being told and you're doing what you're told because you're whatever in this unit. But having been a military man yourself, I have not. There's still grumbling, isn't there? Like there's still people are like, no.
Well,
I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do it with all of my heart. I know that you want me to do this, Lewis, but this is you can see this
Not
is getting
buying into this.
ridiculous, right? Like there's got to be some of that conversation, or is it just the faith in the system and these are our leaders and we're going to continue?
So probably the best example, the story that comes to mind that I think does a good job of answering that question. But before I go there, yes, there's always something for a GI to grumble about. But it doesn't
That's
always.
so weird.
Yeah.
That
I don't
and
know
that
why.
has trended through all generations
Yeah.
right down to today. But it doesn't have to be your boss.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Not always.
okay. So President Jefferson, like,
Getting the brunt
what's
of it.
wrong with this man?
But when I think of when they're approaching the Great Falls of the Missouri,
Yeah.
and then they come to, I just spoke about Decision Point up there by Loma. you
Yeah.
know,
That's
about-
the one I was thinking. I've seen, take it with a grain of salt, but seeing documentaries or reenactments, and I was just specifically thinking about when it came time to figure out which way to go. Didn't they play a prank on them or like pretended to doubt them or something? Maybe this was all in acting for
Well-
this documentary, but
what it was is,
Yeah.
the two groups of men are sent to do a little reconnaissance
Mm-hmm.
on the river that's pouring in from the north, and then the one that they have been traveling on, and they come back, and Clark or Lewis are not in either party. Right, so they come back and they're like, in their mind, they conclude that, hey, we need to take this fort to the right that's going off to the north, we know as the Marias River today. And they had concluded that it was had a lot more silt in it. To stand and look at it, you could tell a lot muddier. And they're thinking greater velocity because its true source is coming from the mountains. And that's the direction they need to go. That's going to take them where they're hoping to go. But then Clark and Lewis are not convinced, and so they are going to go do their own reconnaissance, their own homework, and they come back, and their conclusion is exactly opposite of what all their men that are following them have just suggested. And this, it's not,
a real-
But then you got to feel at some point like leadership is like, what have we done wrong that these people can't see what we see? And then
exactly.
and then for the
also the self-doubt of like they all see it the other way.
and
And they've had experience, right? At this point, they've been together for a long
Right.
time on the river.
like,
Yeah.
why don't you trust me, man?
They've got Cruzat, arguably the best boatman of all of them.
Yeah.
He knows how to read a river. And that's why I go back and say, I've been around long enough. I've been around leaders that have made unpopular decisions, that haven't done the advanced building of a relationship and trust with people.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go very well.
Right.
And to me, that's what just points. Yeah, that's the proof that Lewis, Clark, they're developing that relationship all the way along. So when they get to the point where it's like they might have been thinking, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
But when he says, "This is what we're going to do," there is no word of complaint.
See, I think maybe, and this is where I'm thinking of in whatever documentary or reenactment I watched, where they like played it that they were going to be angry and not follow them, and then they were like, just kidding, we'll follow you, of course. So, we'll follow you.
They've had plenty of time to build relationships. It's what, 2 years in, a year and a half in by this point.
Year and a half.
So
Yeah.
we've spent a lot of time together, people.
Yeah.
I also just wonder too, like what's going through the minds of Lewis and Clark as they start embarking on this fork of like, all right, here's to hoping we're correct on this.
Oh, I'm convinced that Lewis, in the back of his mind, had a huge question mark. That
You
he's
have
like,
to.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because whether you're the leader or not, you have respect for the people that you're with, and they all think it's the other
Yeah, especially when there's
direction.
not a
You're like,
consensus. Yeah.
it's not like you're looking it up on Google.
Right.
yeah, Dr. Google wasn't a thing
Yeah.
then.
uh-uh.
No.
Well, I know that. I mean, in my mind, it's just he tells Clark, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead, taking 4 guys with me. We're going to go as fast as our LPCs, leather personnel carriers, are going to take us." And so they strike out on the north side of the river, because he wants to go and find out quickly. All right, have I made the right decision? Because I think in the back of his mind, he's like, if I make the wrong decision, this is not going to go over well.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
a
gonna
multitude of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, as he would describe, on the 13th of June of 1805, he sees the spray rising up from the plain and the agreeable sound of falling water. And that was an exciting day for him.
Yeah, understandably so.
Well, some validity, like, okay, there they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I knew they were supposed to be here.
I've done good.
Picked the right way.
Woo!
Yeah, sense of relief with that for sure.
And it's not like just a couple hours. Like,
right.
No,
you're
It's not
You're
like
a few
if you have
days
to
in.
backtrack, it's not easy. Yeah.
nope, not at all. Yeah, he was pretty excited on that day. There's no doubt about it. Not only excited because the right decision had been made, but pretty taken with the beauty of the falls, too, of the
Yeah.
Missouri.
Yeah, just have yourself a nice sip of cold whiskey.
Because that's almost gone.
Have you ever
Small sip.
considered to, really get into your job and understand what Lewis and Clark went through? Have you ever considered trying to haul a boat around the falls?
I have not done that, but we have an incredible group, the Lewis and Clark Honor Guard, part of the Portage Route chapter of the Lewis and Clark National Trail Heritage. But they have there are still some members that were part of that reenactment back in the bicentennial. In fact, if you come to the center today, and right behind where the information desk is, after you come by the window, there's a painting there done by a local artist, Ron Ukranitz, who is a member of the Lewis and Clark Honor Guard.
He's been on our podcast as
There you
well.
go. So, you can see his rendering of artwork about that very moment.
We also have a original piece of Ron's work here in our office, and it is a no damned river with an eagle in it.
That's awesome.
After he was a guest on our podcast, he comes in a few days later with this painting and cleverly is excited about, the name of it to,
That's
of course, go
fantastic.
with the podcast title. So it's proudly displayed
Proudly
right here.
featured. Yeah. So 25 years in, and we've got some big things coming up besides the party, but do you want to talk publicly about the exciting new developments of new and refreshed exhibits that'll be coming into the Interpretive Center? You can say no, but
no, we can talk about
Hard-hitting.
that. Yeah, we are excited now. This is what is coming. So we're talking about this actually occurring approximately 2026.
oh, wow.
But we're in the process now. So it's been there 25 years. We're getting, prior to COVID there, we were 50,000 K plus that were coming in as far as our visitation. So it's getting lots of love.
Yeah.
So there's some things that are showing a little bit of that love. And so we've already gone through the process. We had a contract through that was funded by the Great American Outdoors Act.
Oh, wow.
That we brought in a team from a company called Riggs and Ward, who are in the museum curation interpretation business. That's what they do all over the country for state parks, national parks, historic sites, that kind of thing. And they partnered with us, went through our whole facility, brought all of their skill sets to bear on what we'd like to see to kind of refresh some of the things, not to change the story. I mean, that the history
Right.
hasn't changed, but to take those things that have really been showing their age and refresh them with some of today's technology and means that they have to do that. So that portion, they've come. Phase 1 of that project is complete. So that
awesome.
phase 2 of that project is going to be actually now, all right, we know what we want to do. We have a plan for that, but actually putting together the blueprints that a contractor could bid on actually doing the fabrication. So that is the part right now. So it's we had to go back and ask for a little extra money because everything's gone up, right?
It has.
And there's
A minimum of 40%.
Yeah.
no sector
Crazy.
anywhere that's been untouched. So
No, but
Yeah.
if you're trying to build something, that's
Even worse.
Yeah.
yes. So yeah, the prices did go up. But anyway, we're expecting that's probably going to be approved. I don't have that answer yet. Hopefully within the next 60 days, we will get an answer on whether we've been funded to go ahead and go to phase 2 to make those blueprints. But and so once that's done, all right, now it's got to be built, contracted, and we've got to get what's that going to cost? Well, the estimation is that could be $600,000. So that's
crazy.
Right now, that money has been that project has been earmarked as a priority to seek funding for in 2026 from funding from the Great American Outdoors Act.
Cool.
So, phase 1, that is done. The plan is in place. Phase 2, we're right now competing for a little extra money that we needed because prices have gone up. So we're optimistic that that's going to occur. And then 2026 is when we're looking at, no kidding, a contract could be let. And then sometime shortly following that, we would probably have to shut down for a few months while a lot of that was done. And we would most certainly seek to do that during the wintertime when our visitation is a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And so, that's where we're at with that. We're hopeful, keep, trying to take a step forward every time we get an opportunity. But, it is exciting, though, that at least things are moving in that direction.
Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you, for some reason, didn't listen to last week's episode, Jane talked about the development of these displays and kind of how interesting it was and kind of the Easter eggs that are planted in some of those beautiful elements within there. So go back and listen. But it was really interesting to learn kind of that whole process and how quickly it went. And of course, 25 years ago, which is not that long ago.
No, it's not.
But in today's dollars, it's a long time ago. And what was accomplished for $2 million or $6 million. Sorry.
6.2.
Good Lord. I'm just pulling numbers out. Like I wasn't even in the podcast studio. $6 million 25 years ago wouldn't be able to be done today for that.
Yeah. No, it's
barely even thought about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Because now that costs money too.
My brain power costs a lot of money. I do sprinkle some fairy dust every now and again in here, like you should do this, and then people will do it, which is always nice. But
plant the seed.
Yeah. So 25 years. How are we celebrating this milestone?
Which we should say too. It's 25 years today, which is a celebration today, wherever you are, celebrate. But
grab
the
a
big
piece
one,
of cake.
yeah, exactly. But the big one's coming up in conjunction with the festival that happens every year, correct?
Yeah, normally we have a one-day event every year.
With cake?
There's at least ice cream.
That's the best part
that's
anyway.
fine.
Yeah.
But so this year, being at the 25th anniversary, it's going to be a 3-day celebration because we couldn't get all that fun into one day.
No, you shouldn't.
So it's going to occur. It's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 30, July 1, and July 2. The most action-packed day is July 1, Saturday. But honestly, there are great events going on each day. So that's kind of, those are the days that we've chosen. It's also, we chose those dates because the Lewis and Clark National Heritage Trail, there's a foundation. There are chapters across the country, right? Because the trail spans the entire country.
It does.
So once a year, they get together at a site somewhere along the trail. And it just so happens this year, it's in Missoula.
Oh, okay.
And so there's going to be Lewis and Clark enthusiasts from across the nation that are
Already
already coming to Missoula to attend that event there, participate in that event there. And so we purposely put ours right at the conclusion of that. Since they're already here, jump in a car, zip over, and you can add 3 more days of excitement onto your trip.
I am pretty excited about the guided hike on Sulphur Springs because it is a pretty hike, but who's leading that effort? Do you know?
Yes, so it's going to be, we have one of our volunteers and another staff member that will be leading that hike on the very first day of our celebration. So that'll be on that Friday, June 30th, and that'll be we're going to go in the morning because I just said you want
Right.
to.
Yeah.
So typically that's the safest time to go where you don't get cooked while you're out there. But yeah, so we've got that hike going on the very first day. And with that hike, we usually have people, they'll sign up in advance. They can call us and we'll get them on a list. We will limit it. I mean, we can't take, with a couple of rangers and a ranger and a volunteer, probably talking around 20 people
Right.
that we'll take. And then we'll all rendezvous in the parking lot that morning, carpool out there to the trailhead at Moroni Dam, and then take the hike. And you'll learn about wildflowers. You'll learn about the first peoples that called that home. And there are some sites out there that you can see where they used to encamp. And you can see Sulphur Springs. You can look across the river and see where the Corps of Discovery was camped when they came up through this area. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. It's always a fun hike and usually well attended.
Are you going to encourage drinking of the sulfur water?
Usually by the time they get close enough to smell it, the drinking is not so much.
Come on. I mean, I want that full experience. Like, all right, now pull out your canteen and we're going to
My dog was
force
really
feed
interested
you
in it.
some sulfur water. So it's kind of what happened to Sacagawea.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Like, here, it smells gross. Try it.
I'm sure this is healthy for you.
Well, after what she'd been through up to
Yeah.
that point,
She's probably like, all right.
I'm
anything
game.
with
Yeah. Try whatever
what
at
else
this
can
point.
be done to me?
Yeah.
Already been bled 3 times in the last 24 hours.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure, the smell water
Yeah.
is going to be the one. Yeah, and it's still relatively untouched. I mean, it's not developed. If you aren't expecting that stank, I mean, you're like, what's going on? Well, it's Sulphur Springs. Here's the history.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The landscape looks very much like it would have when you read the journal entries. I mean, you can look and okay, yeah, it's still that way.
And if you hike out there when it's hot, which is what we did, you get an even better appreciation, I think, of what the Corps had to deal with. We're hiking along. We drove out there in an air-conditioned car, and I have some fresh water on me, and it's hot. I don't want to be out there all day. I don't want to think about carrying a bunch of stuff. You really get a hint of an appreciation of what that was like to try to pack everything around this area.
Are you joining me on the quitting team? Like, if Jefferson shows up, you're like, I'm going to sit with Ingham and...
Maybe if they try to force feed me sulfur water, probably.
Hey.
Maybe.
Times were tough.
I personally think the sulfur, to you and I, maybe smells a little repulsive, but I like to challenge people to think about this once in a while. The Missouri River, the Big Muddy, as it's often referred to.
Yeah.
And then, so think back to that time frame. Lewis would describe on the 14th of June, the day after he discovered the Great Falls of the Missouri, that when he goes over, climbs up on the North Shore and he looks out over the plain, he estimates 10,000 bison are out there.
Wow.
So now they have, a daily schedule.
Uh-huh.
Frequently, where is all that dung
going? Mm-hmm.
And I often, not as far back as Lewis and Clark, but even just thinking of the Wild Wild West days, just the stench of the horses and the it's not like you're taking a daily shower.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
Or washing your clothes on a weekly basis. Like there's just some things that
the general atmosphere doesn't
your
smell
olfactory
good.
nerves are changing over time and what you become accustomed to. Again, when I get to the ranch and I smell cow poo, I'm excited. But they probably, the things you're smelling are going to be very different. And honestly, we've all had maybe a mixed drink, a fancy cocktail where the smell is like, ooh. Like if you get some bad gin, it's not going to smell good, but you still drink it.
And at this point, you're thirsty enough. You want the,
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, of course, we're putting the modern spin on our own theories, but So what else is happening?
So, moving on from the springs.
Shut up. I need to shut up and let the experts talk, for goodness sakes. Showcase my stupidity any further.
Here, let me save you.
Thank you.
Good job, Duane.
So let's see. We have that hike on the very first day. We have another hike that we're going to do also, where we're going to go to Lewis and Clark Pass.
Oh.
And so that one's a little farther away. It's about an hour and a half to get to the trailhead.
That's in the Lincoln area, right?
It is closer to Lincoln than it is to us. But what any participants that sign up for that hike, they're going to have an opportunity to travel the same. This was a trail that was used by the Native Americans to come to hunt bison in this area. And so you'll be able to go right up that same trail. It's just under 1,000 foot of elevation gain, about 1.5 miles to get from the trailhead up to the pass where Lewis came over in July of 1806 on the return trip. And you'll be able to, he makes a reference to what he calls Fort Mountain. We know it as Square Butte today. It's a prominent landmark.
Oh, yeah.
There, southwest of town. But when you're on that pass, you can look out over the prairie to the east and you can see it. But yeah, it's a really neat experience to go up there. And not only that, but I mean, you are standing on the Continental Divide, right? You've got water flowing into
3 directions.
Yeah, and it's a really neat experience. So those are the 2 hikes that we're going to have going on over that weekend. And then at the Interpretive Center, I mean, every day we've got a number of events. So all 3 days there's going to be an encampment. So it'll be out east of the building in our grassland trail area. And so out there in that encampment, there is going to be a leather teepee. It's not made out of bison hide. It's made out of elk hide. But again, very similar, just not quite as heavy as a bison hide teepee would have been. And there'll be an interpreter there with that. We're going to have a gentleman there who does Indian artwork on leather. And he uses all the pigments that he has for his paint, they come from from the landscape, right? So it's all natural pigments that he uses, and he will show and demonstrate to people how they would make a story robe and how that art told their history, and was used to pass down to other generations, and the rock art that they would use too. But anyway, so he'll be out there. We're going to have a gentleman. Whoever knew there was a history in wool blankets? So we have a gentleman. He's actually one of our volunteers.
I'm shocked I don't know anything about that.
I actually did just listen to a book called Vanishing Fleece, all about the American wool industry.
Yeah, so
that being said, I don't know anything about it, but I know that there's an far more that goes into it than I know.
Yeah, if he has 85 blankets.
Oh.
And stories.
My
to
husband
tell
gives me a bad time about the
all of
number
them.
of blankets
I
I
probably have
yeah.
25.
Yeah, so he's going to be set up that
That's
sharing
cool.
with anybody that comes by, and he knows so much, and he'll talk to you as long as you can stand it. He's just a wonderful man. And then we have another guy and his wife, George Bryce. They're coming up from Helena, but he's a flint napper.
Oh.
And
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
You sounded excited. I'm like, what?
Well, it just seemed cool. I don't know what that means.
So, back before we had iron, to be able to fashion points or blades or anything like that, the Indians who called this place home, they are primarily using flint and then shaping those into fleshing tools and blades and points for their arrows or their spears or that kind of thing. Well, that is a skill to be developed, and you don't just pick it up, right? But so they take and they shape that into whatever shape of implement they're looking to make. And we have a gentleman that will come out and demonstrate how that was done. People will be able to watch that happen right before their eyes. He has a number of finished products too, so you can see what it starts out as and what it turns up as. So he's always really interesting. He comes once a month during our shoulder season, usually on a Saturday, and sets up right in the Interpretive Center lobby and shares with any customers that are coming through. So we'll have him out there. We're going to have another gentleman from the National Park Service that is going to be, he's going to have a hat demonstration table to talk about period hats and how they're created, what goes into them, why they were practical.
That seems
Are we
fun.
going to get one of those water shedding hats?
Oh,
You'll be able to see one anyway, but he
Okay.
won't be building one of those.
Okay. But they'll be on display.
Yeah, hopefully by that time we'll have one on display in the exhibit hall that you can see.
nice.
Right now we just have an image of one. It just so happens we purchased one for the exhibit hall yesterday. Elizabeth is picking it up
Ooh,
today.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
I will tell you, we go camping Memorial Weekend. It always rains, and my husband has this camper hat. It is the most beat up cowboy hat on planet Earth. It is so ridiculous. He goes, I got, it's my Memorial Day weekend hat because it's always raining and it's always snowing, and I need my cowboy hat to help with that. Like, I don't think it's helping at all because your shoulders are still wet, your back is still wet, and you look as wet as I do, and I'm not wearing any hat.
Yeah.
And you look stupid in this hat. And he's like, oh, no, I look good. And I'm like, you don't. But
you really don't.
I am thinking now this cone-styled hat, that's going to be my style. And he's going to go.
Set a trend.
Yeah.
Right. And he's going to go, what are you wearing?
Yeah.
I'm like, it looks
Well.
as good as yours.
Yep.
We're not here for a fashion statement, obviously. So we got hats on display.
We are also going to have, so you remember we have a volunteer, 4-footed volunteer.
Yes.
All right. So
At first, I thought you meant like a 4-foot tall
Oh,
volunteer,
no.
and I was
Shannon
like,
got excited, like, oh,
somebody else
I'm
who's
taller.
short. Yeah.
Somebody I'm taller than.
Yes, I do get excited about that. I do get excited, but I get even more excited about 4-legged.
Yes. So tell us
Volunteers.
about
Yes.
this 4-legged friend. What's happening there?
Well, so we have our regular volunteer. His name is Butler. He's a Newfoundland dog, and his owner, Bill Schuler. So they are frequent at the Interpretive Center. They come to welcome most school groups that come there, and they're there twice a week just greeting visitors, usually on Wednesday and
It's
Saturdays.
a full-time job for Butler.
It's a full-time
Yeah.
job for Butler. Anyway, they'll be out there all 3 days, but also we're going to have another newfie. Her name is Sally, so we'll have 2
Ooh.
Newfoundland dogs there that'll be out meeting and greeting with all the patrons that are enjoying the festivities. And then we'll have a couple of short ranger-led interpretive programs about, so what was this dog? Where did he come from?
Yeah, why
What
did they
what
pack
are
a
some
dog
things
all
that
the
they
way?
do?
Yeah,
And so you'll get a chance to learn that, but you'll be able to see them too. And probably get your picture taken. They are.
That's reason enough to come to meet those dogs.
It is just with Butler. I cannot tell you how many times we'll take a phone call and they'll be like, "So is the dog there today?" Oh, okay. He's not. When will he be there?
Yeah,
We're not
Okay,
coming
well,
unless
we'll
there's
come then.
something. Yeah.
I get that.
So folks listening at home, because that's where you all are.
Yeah.
The original dog that was part of the core discovery was a Newfoundland
Yes.
and named Seaman, correct?
Correct.
Look at me being smart.
Good job, trivia.
Yep.
Trivia points.
So you'll get to learn why there was why they brought a
I'm
dog.
actually curious. I've never really thought a whole lot about that, but that's that's like one of the biggest, fluffiest, heaviest dogs you could choose to bring on a boat tour.
on the water.
I'll just have to come and learn more about that.
Yeah.
There you go. So I'll give you a hint.
'Kay.
More of a practical reason
Yeah.
than anything else.
Than
There's
companionship.
Smaller than a horse.
Yeah.
They were smaller than a horse. That's my guess. Yeah, they were working dogs, and again,
Yeah, of
don't try to
course.
put your modern lens on the 1800s and try to figure it out, because they weren't just there to snuggle with him at night.
I know.
Although helpful.
Yeah.
Built-in pillow and blanket right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were
He's like,
occasions
no.
where they enlisted the aid of seamen to help act as a sentry of sorts and keep watch over so they could rest at night because they
Yeah.
were having so many encounters with grizzly
Yeah.
bears.
Yeah.
See, that's a very helpful reason.
Seamen thwarted a stampeding bull bison through the camp one night. I mean, he engaged the animal and it turned and went another direction.
Good job.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Neither were they.
Bison, like, what are you? What's
Yeah.
going on?
You're a small fluffy bison. Yeah.
If you go look at the journal entries for the 29th of May of 1805, you can learn ahead of time what happened there.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
It's a pretty
Teaser.
exciting story.
Okay.
And you can.
I'm excited now.
Yeah, you can buy your own full set of the original journals anytime.
Or you can just go online to University of Nebraska Press for free.
Oh.
Or
Do you
book
sell
your trip
these?
today and go to the Interpretive Center Trail Heritage Foundation and read them there.
There you go.
A lot of options.
Yes.
What else? What else?
So
educate me more.
We've got the encampment going along. So, grizzly bears were a big deal then.
Yeah.
They were. They were.
They're still kind of a big deal now, right?
Yeah.
So we are going to have the
Live
Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, the Bear Aware trailer
Okay.
that will be there in the encampment all week. So that'll be educating people about bears today, what's
No
going on with
bears
the populations.
there, though, right? Are they bringing a bear?
Live bear.
Well, no, there'll be no live bears.
And I
there.
think Jane ruined that for everyone.
Yeah.
Did she tell you that story?
She told
She
us that
did.
story, yes.
And I think that's why there's no more live
Yeah.
animals because of Jane.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sounds epic, though.
You'll have we talked about the Lewis and Clark Honor Guard. Norman Anderson usually plays Meriwether Lewis, and did she talk at all about him meeting that bear?
Yep.
And that's a great
Sure
story.
did. Again, if you skipped ahead, didn't listen to last week, go listen to
You
last week.
missed-
There are some amazing stories.
It
And
is an
you'll get a
amazing
little
story.
bit more of what we're hinting about
Yes.
here, but we're not going to tell you here because, we
Yeah,
like
come see
to
it.
give
Yeah.
you a little lick of the lollipop and then make you
Exactly.
want more.
So that is encampment activities that are going on. Then there's going to be food vendors out there for one, because you're going to work up an appetite.
You are.
And then there's going to be a number of different craft vendors that'll be out there that'll have different crafts that people could look at and purchase if they want.
Likely custom scented candles.
Yes, Lewis's foot.
Maybe Kelly is going to surprise us there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm pretty excited about this.
Also inside, so the whole exhibit hall is open like it always is for everybody to come and take in, but we're going to have a couple of special things going on in there too. There'll be a weapons exhibit set up inside up in the lobby. Then we're also going to have a new budding Lewis and Clark author. Her name is Caitlin Clark. She's from Greenville, Ohio, and I have not met her face to face. We've spoken on the phone. But the first conversation was, I read my first book when I was in 7th grade about Lewis and Clark and the Core Discovery. And then I realized, hey, Meriwether Lewis was in Greenville, Ohio, prior to the expedition. And she said, my dream was to write a book about the history that Meriwether Lewis had here. And so she's a school teacher by trade. And she's, if I remember, 27 years old now, just published this book, has done a couple of programs promoting it. She is going to travel the entire trail this summer, and she's organized it so she'll be here all 3 days of our festivities.
Neat.
And she'll be promoting her book, selling the book there in the lobby. And then she's going to give some short programs after we show our theater feature films in the theater, just talking about the book, kind of teasers, and if you want to learn more, you can go buy one of my books. So we're excited to have her. And then we've got another gentleman. He's a long in the tooth Lewis and Clark enthusiast, John Fisher. He's recently self-published a book on the medicine of the early 1800s, the medicine of Lewis and Clark. He will have that book there for sale for anybody that's interested in it. And he, too, you'll be able to converse with him. We're actually still working out some of the details of some formal programs that he and a former employee of the Interpretive Center might also be putting on to. That's still in the negotiation stage of where we're going to be able to fit that in. So those will be going on in the lobby. And then all of these, we've got some special speakers that are coming through. So we have Jack Gladstone. He's going to bring his musical skills to bear there. That'll be Friday evening. On Saturday, we've got like horse packing demonstrations with the 9 Mile Ranger District. There's going to be 10 mules, and they're going to be demonstrating the same kind of packing material and how you would, Lewis and Clark, they traded for horses, loaded all their gear, took them out of the boats, put them on the horses to go over the Rockies. So it's still the same kind of thing that'll be demonstrated there on Saturday. We're going to have the Kootenai Salish fancy dancers. They're going to do 2 presentations on that day.
Oh, wow.
We're going to have Smokey the Bear will be there.
Oh.
We're going to have a special presentation from the Lewis and Clark Honor Guard on the dugout canoes. How they were crafted, everything that went into them. There's also going to be another honor guard presentation, and it's going to be a beaver skinning demonstration. So it will be the skinning of a real beaver. So that the fur trade would quickly follow after Lewis and Clark had come through, and that's what everybody was after. Primarily was that beaver. So all those things will be going on Saturday, and then Saturday night we've got 2 special speakers. One of them is a man by the name of Chris Hodges, and he's from Kansas City, Missouri. So he's the author of a recent book titled Coulter's West Wind. Came out a couple of years ago. So he is a big John Coulter enthusiast.
I mean, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, that's what I say. And then we're going to have Dr. Jay Buckley, and he's going to have a presentation on Lewis and Clark connections to the fur trade. And so Dr. Buckley, he is the director of BYU's Brigham Young University's Charles Redd Center for Western Studies. He's the author of several books, most notably the William Clark, Indian Diplomat, By His Own Hand, The Mysterious Death of Meriwether Lewis, and he's also just getting ready to publish a book, The Great Plains Forts, which should come out this fall. So that's all going on Saturday, and then on Sunday, the big feature event on Sunday is Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Montana Wild out of Helena is going to do a raptor program.
That's cool.
On the Sunday. Those are always really popular.
Yeah. And for those of you that for some reason don't know what raptors are, it's birds.
Yes. So owls, hawks, eagles.
Types of birds.
Yeah.
Yep.
A specific category of bird.
Good clarification.
And we have had unbelievable turnout to every one of those that we've ever had.
Well, anytime there's live animals, I think it's fun.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the unpredictability of it. I mean, you
Yes.
really want to be there live to go, wonder if that bird's going to come back, or I wonder if they're all going to attack
Those are
us.
some big
or
talons. Yeah.
I wonder if that bison's going to get out and charge us, or, all the fun.
Jane told you those stories
Yes.
too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we pull it out of people when we put them on this podcast.
You're good.
And you think we're joking about being fans of John Coulter? Well, listen to the episode we had with Duane Buchi where all we did was talk about John Coulter.
That was a fun day.
It was a fun. I'd never had more fun learning history.
Yeah.
Probably
There you
been
go, bringing history alive.
Yes,
Exactly.
It is just the
Full
best way to
circle.
learn it.
That's for sure.
That's a lot of things.
And that's not, let me
Oh,
share a
you're not
couple
done?
more.
Okay.
Also on Sunday, we'll have another Smoky appearance. And then we've got one of the Blackfeet elders, Dugan Coburn. He's from here in Great Falls.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing a demonstration on the native use of bison.
Oh.
And then we also have rangers from other park sites. So one of them is Darian Cath from the Knife River Indian Villages. He's a former employee of the Interpretive Center. He now works over there at the Indian Villages in North Dakota, and he's going to be doing a program on Indian diplomacy. And then another Ranger Hess, and he's from down at Omaha at the trail headquarters, and he's going to be doing one on military discipline of Lewis and Clark and the Corps of Discovery. And that will, I assure you, that will be a very interesting program as well. So that's kind of, we're going to have the encampment going on. We're going to have
so
food.
much
We're going to
stuff.
have all these
lot.
going through the exhibit hall, which that's what
so
50,000
much
people a
fun.
year come
Yeah.
to go to every year. So you can take that in. We've got some authors there promoting their books that have just come out. It's going to be a great weekend.
Now, I'm going to confirm. What I heard was the 27-year-old school teacher author's name was Caitlin Clark.
There's not a relation, but yes,
Man.
you did hear
Maybe
that.
you are related, though.
I claimed it. When I applied for the tourism job, I said my maiden name is Clark.
Yeah.
It is destiny. Like that was my closing statement. I am
Wow.
that bold. I never said I was related to Clark. I
You
just said,
implied it.
yes, you make your own connections. Caitlin, I really think you missed an opportunity to just leverage the last name and throw it out there. You don't have to say I am. You can just say, my
You
last
never
name
know.
is Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So obviously,
And then just
the rest
leave.
speaks for itself.
Yeah, just leave it there. Like,
let people draw their own conclusions.
yeah, we learned though that some people say they're related to Lewis or Clark, and everyone knows it's a lie because one of them didn't have children.
Yeah, actually, I've heard people come in and claim to be relations of quite a few members of this the core discovery.
Huh. Which one didn't have kids?
I don't remember. It
So-
probably.
So, which one had relation troubles?
I think they all did.
Well,
Is it more Lewis?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was never married.
Yeah, and he was also he wasn't the gregarious one.
Right. Well, that's why I just based off how you were describing
Yeah.
him earlier. That was
Yeah.
my guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I forget, because I'm excited about Clark, because I'm a Clark, so it made sense. We're all
Mm.
gregarious. Lewis is like,
Yeah.
you people need to take it down a notch.
Mm. Yeah.
A little more somber, for
Yeah.
sure.
You
Mhm.
Clark people.
Which one was Clark the younger one as well on the journey?
Yeah.
Of the two? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not the youngest.
But between him and
Yeah.
Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, we're
Mhm.
He
original.
turned 33 in August of 1805. on
Okay.
They look
which
like
they
they're
had
70.
they had just recently left here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough journey.
Well, you're dead by 40
Yeah.
back in those days. So you
Well-
are an old man at 33.
And this mysterious, it wasn't that long after they finished the
3
years that Lewis died
Yeah.
after that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited about the mystery death book. And I'm really excited about the medicine thing because I'm a little bit of a hippie when it comes to natural medicine. And I just think a lot of
It's
what
really intriguing.
occurred then is still better than some of the stuff today. With caveats. Like my husband has asthma. I don't think you should try and will yourself past that because breathing is kind of an important part. So if you
Right.
need help in that area, you should have medical help for that area.
Yeah.
But other things like, pink eye, rub some honey in there. It's
Yeah,
fine.
see what happens. Yeah.
Snake bites.
There
I feel
you
like
go.
I need to put a disclaimer on this podcast.
No,
of, like,
they know if I'm talking, they should not be doing these things at home unless I'm really committed. And then
but
probably still don't.
We don't need anyone coming after us being like, Rebecca said.
Hey, if
this
you're getting
worked.
your medical advice from this podcast, it serves you right.
Yeah.
Unless we're going to do an entire episode on the medicine of the expedition, then you could use some of that, I think.
Well,
That'd
we
be
should
fun.
do
Operative
that.
word would be some.
Some right, because we've probably learned, like, hey, don't eat bark. That's probably not
Yeah.
going to help you.
Yeah.
But maybe it does. So,
You never
We
know.
know Dr. Rush's thunderclappers, as they were nicknamed, that primary ingredient being mercury was not
Not a good
necessarily
plan.
the best
Yeah,
thing
we
for you.
don't like.
Effective
mercury
purgative
anymore.
for sure, but
right.
Yeah.
And back
Long
then,
term,
not
it
so
was
good.
fine.
Yeah. We've come a ways since that.
I'm just going to throw this out there that there's an area of Montana that has some mercury issues in the water, and then it is promoted to go fishing there. I would 100% do catch and release in that area. And often,
Just
my
go
husband's like,
fishing
what do
in
you
a
think
different
about going
spot."
fishing there? I'm like, catch and release. We're not keeping
Yeah.
anything that comes out of that body of water.
Yeah. Good call. Mm-hmm.
They say it's fine, but I also live in an area of town that has acceptable levels of arsenic in our water system, and
Huh.
I think acceptable levels are 0, and that's not the number that comes
Yeah.
on the
No.
report.
That's not. Yeah. Acceptable levels are
that is for sure.
subjective. Yeah.
There's an area along the trail where the presence of mercury that still exists in the soil ended up being what was used to determine truly where
They were.
one of the campsites was that the core discovery was on.
I think that's
Wow.
neat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little disgusting.
Yeah, but fascinating.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. So yeah, if that sounds enticing, go look up Traveler's Rest. There is a Montana State Park that interprets that site there, and you'll learn a little bit more about how
Mercury.
they came to determine exactly where that campsite was. But it
Okay.
was because they found where the latrine was.
Yes, sir. That's awesome.
Aha. Yummy.
So easily, Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center's got 25 more years in her.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 25 and growing.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are things free? Or does it cost? What does that look like for the festival?
Well, our time is not free. That it
No,
is going to
yeah.
cost you some time, and to come out and be able to truly enjoy everything that's going on.
Yeah.
If you're planning to come and blaze through it in 60 minutes, you'll walk away having missed much of what's going to happen. But yeah, this would be a good time to plan this as a destination to come to.
Yeah.
For sure.
We have some, there's some places in town where you can take up a room and you won't have to live in a tent or camp underneath the stars, but you could go find that too.
Yeah.
If you wanted.
Yeah. That's
Creature
always an
comforts,
option.
we've afforded those things for you here.
There you go. Yep.
Running water.
It'd be a good time to plan a trip out here and
Yeah.
spend a few days to take all of it in.
And really, there's nothing that repeats. I mean, there's some things that are happening every day, but there's so much different happening each day that you're going to want to do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, the hikes, the fact that there are the guided hikes to me are just top notch.
Yeah.
So get in early, man.
Yeah, if nothing else, if you just want to hike in the area, this is a great time to have a guided opportunity for
With
that.
some stories.
Absolutely.
And getting to know because I think in our podcast we did about the box that showed up from the Lincoln Ranger
Alice Creek.
Station.
Yeah.
Alice Creek, you were telling me about the Lewis and Clark Perch portion of that trail system.
Oh,
And we did not do it justice, Duane. We knew nothing about
No,
it. We
we were
just read a
reading off of
brochure.
the brochure that was left on our
It
doorstep.
was interesting. Like we learned some stuff.
Yeah.
Was it the broshure from the Lincoln Ranger District?
And
Oh,
yes,
I know
and the
exact-
Alice Creek
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
That's a great brochure.
It's fantastic. We just all of a sudden had a box
There were just a
outside one
box
day, and I'm
waiting.
like, what is this?
So we pulled it out and we read through the brochure on the podcast.
It was awesome. Riveting.
They knew they had a message, and they knew if they wanted it to be put out where
Yeah.
it needed to go.
Well,
Yeah.
I just don't spend that much time in the Lincoln Alice Creek drainage district. We talked to the lovely people from Bighorn Outdoor Sports about it, and they've spent time in there, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to expand my horizons.
Yeah.
You
me
know
too.
what? It's too bad. We just had a brochure that was completed. It's 29 pages complete with a big
Holy
fold-out map
cow.
on the back. And it documents from present-day Bonner, Montana, which is where Highway 200 starts over by Missoula, and it comes all the way to Lewis and Clark Pass. So not only, it's kind of like one of those older strip maps that, are a milepost, the different sites that you can see as you go along. And it shows you not only some Lewis and Clark history, some Native American history, the miners that were in there, the settlers that came through into that area. It's just chock full of all kinds of great information, and that all was made possible by a member of the National Trail Heritage Foundation, and they made a private donation to us for that today. And then we partnered with Blackfoot Challenge, and they had a graphic artist that just did fantastic work putting all this together. And literally 2 weeks ago, we picked up 1,000 brochures. So we'll share those with the people.
If you ever wanted to share with us,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we like to read things that get dropped off at our door.
Yeah. So just come knock on the door, leave it, and run, and we'll.
I should have thought to have brought one over today.
Well, it's been a blast getting to learn a little bit more. I think a medicine episode would be
real
so much
good.
fun. If you've not listened to our John Coulter episode, that was just the funnest, craziest episode ever. And no one planned on that one. So maybe let's not plan on something and
just see what happens.
see what happens here. So, Duane, we'll be happy to have you back over the next 25 years on the podcast
Yes.
so that we can continue to celebrate Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center and the jewel that it is for our community. And thanks for putting together just an amazing
Yeah, I'm
3 days
excited.
in partnership with the Lewis and Clark Foundation.
Yes.
Celebrating kind of that history and celebrating the longevity of a community-loved project. Obviously, not just our community, but everybody involved is it holds a piece of their heart.
Yeah.
As you heard from Jane, who decided, let's found it. Let's build
Let's do it. Yeah. Show them wrong.
Yeah.
When we can raise the money.
18 months, just unbelievable. So really amazing experience, and to know that it is loved deeply by our community is just even better. So make your plans now. happy anniversary to the center. Yay.
Hey,
and
thank
then get everything scheduled. So we'll see you soon here in Great Falls when you show up. Talk to you. Bye. We're just going to close it out like that.
Bam.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town.